Hey everybody, my name is Jonathan Jones. I work in the membership department here at ASCAP. I want to welcome everybody to our ASCAP Experience Music Publishing 201 panel. Super excited today to talk to you all about what a writer can expect to happen once they've signed that coveted publishing deal. Before we get into it, I want to give the panelists an opportunity to go around and introduce themselves, and then we'll hop right into it.
How you doing, JJ? How's the panel doing? How is everybody? My name is Al McLean, nickname Al Butter McLean. I'm the senior VP over at Empire Music Publishing, where I run the worldwide division. I'm here to help, here to hopefully answer some questions, and thank y'all for inviting me.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mark Brown. I run Round Hill's office here in Nashville, Tennessee. I opened the office for them in January of 2014, and I've been here ever since and put together all the deals that we've done here in Nashville. And I'm glad to be here to hopefully answer some questions. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Rosa Santiago. I'm the VP for Latin music in Universal Music Publishing. I used to work in ASCAP, so I'm happy that you guys invite me and receive me again and connect me with all the writers in ASCAP.
Hi, I'm Jamie Kinelski. I'm a Vice President of Creative at Kobalt Music Publishing in Los Angeles, and I've been at the company for a little over 7 years. I work across all genres, but really my focus is in pop. And like Anna Rosa, before I joined the team at Kobalt, I was at ASCAP for a little over 2 years here in LA. So very happy to be on this panel and talking to Expo attendees because it's such a wonderful event and I'm happy to be here.
All right, cool. Thank you all again for joining us. The first question I want to get into is, before we get into the meat and potatoes of what this panel is about, I want to talk about the different types of publishing deals. Namely, I guess the most well-known deals are the co-pub deal and the admin deal. So if you don't mind, could you briefly kind of break down the differences between the two and kind of the pros and cons of the two different types of deals?
Most of our deals are co-publishing deals. We do a lot of catalog acquisition, and a typical deal for us at Round Hill would be find an asset, a catalog of songs with a bunch of hits and a bunch of revenue streams flowing off of it. We'll value that asset and we'll purchase the asset, exploited and unexploited if we can. And then we'll sign the creator, the songwriter, into a go forward deal, usually a 50-50 co-pub for 3 or 4 years. We also do a lot of administration deals. The difference is that we don't own any of the publishing in the admin deals. We just administer the copyrights. We collect the royalties. We send out the letters of direction. We register everything with the PROs, and we do all of your back office work, and we take a fee for doing that, usually about 15%. In the co-pub deal, we split the publishing asset 50-50, and we also take an admin fee usually on that as well.
Can you talk a little bit more about the pros and cons of, I guess, if there were pros and cons of each deal, or, you know, what a writer can expect, you know, creatively from the admin deal? If they can't expect anything, can you kind of go into that?
Yes, and we treat a lot of our admin deals as though they were actually our writers. By that, I mean, we would help them run their calendars, we would pitch their songs, we would set them up on co-writes. But if you are a co-publishing partner, you get more of that creative service than you would as just an admin client. We're more involved in your day-to-day running of your business and managing your artistic affairs.
Got it.
I can jump in a little bit, JJ, just because I'm at Kobalt and we only do admin deals. Kobalt really is an administration company, and the company's been around for a little over 20 years, and I've been there 7. And I'm on the A&R side, so there's over 40 of us globally that like on our team that is working with lots of different people in lots of different types of ways, and not every deal is the same, and not every client and writer, producer, artist really requires the same level of service. Some people have very active managers, some people are really self-contained, but if you're in an admin deal, you're owning your copyright, and we're proudly kind of taking a cut to administer that globally. So making sure obviously that we're getting the correct data from the inception of the deal. And then so our copyright and royalty teams internationally can make sure every microtransaction is being collected. And on my end, you know, on the A&R side, I don't have writers calling me saying they're stuck in old school unhappy deals, because when you enter into a deal with us, you kind of know exactly what you're getting. If you take in advance, you got to recoup it. And when the term is up, you can leave. And that's pretty much like the deal inception of Kobalt, but really from like in like a co-pub versus admin standpoint, it's just ownership. You know, the creator retains full control.
Got it. Thanks for that, Jamie. Okay, so this panel is about what a writer can expect to happen once they sign that publishing deal. I think that a lot of times, you know, there's this misconception that, you know, a writer signs a deal and that's it. They made it. The career's going to take off, and you know, it's not that simple, right? So I guess my question is, and this is for all of you, anybody can jump in. Once a writer signs that deal, how can they best utilize your services as a publisher once that deal is signed? You want to jump in?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, it's pretty interesting at that point because it gets really real at that point. When a writer finally gets signed to a publishing deal, whether it's co-publishing or admin, and that's the time they should really bear down and really get to work. First phase for me is I really introduce them and their catalog to the sync team. And at that point, they start to get familiar with other opportunities for their catalog. And then I start to ask these writers for different versions of their music, whether it's instrumental, a cappella, or the straight radio version. So that's one part. Second part is I ask these writers I kind of ask who are they in or have great relationships with, because then we're going to hone down on who they're really cool with and get into business with them more, and then create more tracks and or songs where my team can pitch outside of where they're already comfortable. And so those are probably three-pronged phases that I initially start with. But it's usually a time when these writers, once they get signed to a publishing company, their career really starts to move forward, and it's starting, you know, taking this business serious.
And Rosa, you want to hop in?
Yes, echoing all, but also in our Latin world, it's also a compromise with your publishing, right? It's when, okay, you sign with a publisher, but it's the publisher will help you and be part of a team, whatever you're doing if you're an artist. But as an artist or producer, I mean, as a writer or producer, it's also include your publishing and make it part of your creative team. And for us, it's super important that feedback with sometimes the writer sign and it's, oh, okay, they're gonna work for me. And no, we need to work together as publisher, and they need to understand that we are part of the team, of the creative team.
Yeah, so that can mean, like, you know, just piggybacking off of what Ana Rosa said, working closely with the manager, if there is a manager, if it's an artist that we sign, or a producer that has a manager, or even a writer that has a manager, working in tandem with them to kind of get to the collective goal of wherever this person wants to be, you know, wherever you want to be as a creator, right? So if it's, hey, I have this song with this artist, but I really want to get this song to this artist, or I want to, you know, I want a #1 in the next like 3 years, like, and I will do whatever it takes to get there. It's like, let's all collectively work together to make that happen, you know. And it really is, because when energies are aligned, that's when we get results. And then if it's an artist signed to a label, working closely with the A&R at the label, you know, like, so that we're all aligned, you know, with our creative efforts. Because again, when there's different people kind of operating independently, it's a waste of time.
No, agreed. I agree with both. At Empire, I am fortunate to have a total distribution unit, which has been putting out a lot of great songs, a lot of great records in the marketplace. So once a writer is signed with us, we pretty much run them through our entire system of distributed acts. So you're absolutely right. We bring them into the team, and we do acknowledge what they're trying to do, but it is the sync opportunities that we try to give to the writers, which will help them.
Mark, did you want to add to that? I know you're in Nashville. Is the process from an A&R perspective different once a writer signs to your company, or?
It maybe just a little bit, but yes, piggybacking on what they all have said, it's sort of the same process. I get involved with who they work with and what they're involved with, and I try to jump in there and support that and enhance that. Most of our writers are well established, and they're working a lot with artists, and a lot of this has to do with writing songs that wind up on a record. So the master ownership portion of this becomes important, and these demos frequently become master recordings and are released, and the writers generally own those things with the artists and sometimes with the labels. So that's an important component of the equation as well. But basically, it's all about connecting the writers with active artists and writing material that's going to be for their projects and come out on their projects. The sync part of the equation is very, very important these days, far more important than it was maybe 10 years ago. And all of our writers are heavily involved in that world as well. We have a company, Zinc, that we purchased 3 or 4 years ago, who manages our sync business for us, and they do a really great job of hooking our writers up with a lot of great opportunities. We do very well in the sync world, and that really helps. I like that component because it really helps me stay in business with the writer a longer time. The money comes quicker, and it's usually fairly lucrative, and it's a great way if you have a young writer artist. If I can get a couple of syncs on that writer, that keeps me in the black or close to being in the black, and extends my time period it takes to get that artist career launched. And it worked very well on several deals that I'm doing.
Yeah, I think sync is important, honestly, to like every single person that comes in to do deals with all of us, on the screen, whether it's an artist, a songwriter, producer, it really is like there's so much media being consumed and being made all over the world, when, just a few years ago, a lot of that was happening really out of the US. Things have changed with the advent of streaming services and original content, and all of it has music in it. So, and I think we all know too that like one meaningful sync can completely change the course of a song, of an artist's trajectory, of the label's engagement with that artist. It really is like, so, I mean, I think everybody would say this, but my film and TV team helps make me look good every day to the people that I sign, because they're just so engaged. And, the people in that space, the supervisors, the people at networks, people at studios, they want to be a part of the story too, of breaking a song, of breaking an artist, like of making that meaningful thing happen that cultivates connection with audiences. Because there's just so much noise right now with like, how many songs are in the Music Friday? Like 90? It's like, there's so much stuff coming out every week that it's impossible to stay across it all, because there used to be a lot more gatekeeping, and there's just not anymore. So, how do we get the attention of the consumer, to then translate that to get them engaged with the artist, with the song, with the audience, so that's all really meaningful. But back to what you said, I really think it's a lot about when you enter into a deal, like how do things change for, a writer doing a publishing deal? It really is about expectation. Like, what is your expectation out of this deal? Is it to collect my money? Is it to get me syncs? Is it to get me like evolving creatively, or is it all of the above? And like, making sure that your expectations are aligned with mine before we sign a deal is the most important thing, because you can very easily in 6, 12, 18, 24 months, just realize quickly that, like things can happen and change, or like something was supposed to happen with a song that then didn't make the record, and it was supposed to be a single, but it ended up being an album cut. It's like, so we have to be aligned from the beginning with like what our goals are together. before we kind of get in, before we do a deal. That's my take. I don't know if anybody wants to kind of talk more on that, but.
And Rosa, Al, you have anything to add to that?
I'm gonna add on the same theme. It's actually for us very productive, and especially right now when there are more outlets in Spanish or seasons and different. There's even the networks already have the Latino character, and you know, it's super important for us. And also we try to recognize the artists and the writers and the producers that are very good on sync. And if they don't have a special song that I can push to something a TV program or anything like that on the sync, I ask them to make things for it. So, you know, because it's different when you sync when you use a song for sync, it's totally different. So I push them to work on it, and it's working very good on our side because we're getting more and more to put music in Spanish or Spanglish. It doesn't matter either way.
I want to go back to what Jamie said. You mentioned expectations and kind of managing that. You know, how does it work when a writer, you know, signs a deal or is in talks with signing a deal, and you know, their expectation is to have the biggest placements with the, you know, the Beyoncés or the Rihannas? Like from an A&R perspective, how do you kind of navigate that approach as far as managing what's doable? I mean, obviously, you know, everybody wants that big placement, but you know, there's great artists all over that you can, you know, work with and kind of, you know, get placements. How do you kind of go about navigating that, you know, from an A&R perspective?
Well, I need to make sure the writer can actually write that song, or like actually has the talent to back up like what they want, you know, or has the potential to get there, you know, because not everybody's coming into every deal with like all the hits, right? They might have one amazing song and then 20 or 30 okay songs, and then a lot of not great songs, because it's a law of averages and not everybody's writing a hit every day. But it's really the talent, the potential, and the right attitude. Like if you're coming into it with an air of like grandiosity and you aren't really willing to kind of back it up with work and the talent, then I'm not going to do the deal. You know, it's just, that's where I'm coming from. But of course, like everybody wants that Beyonce Rihanna cut. I mean, and we're all chasing it as A&R people, you know.
I was just going to piggyback off of Jamie in saying that, you know, the expectations of the writer has to be evaluated, because everyone does want to make it on the top A-list records, whether it's Adele, whether it's Beyonce, whether it's Nicki Minaj or the Baby. You know, everyone has tracks or a song that they want on those projects, and in most cases I say, cool, do you really have what it takes to make it? Do you really have that sound that's next? And in most cases, I try to explain to these writers that they have a writing team as well, and we have a small window to actually be even thought of in the pitching process for these particular songs. And if you really feel strong about it, talking to the writer, why don't we just make an album ourselves of these records, and let's distribute them ourselves, and let's make a sound and make an opportunity instead of trying to pitch one. So that's the type of thing I've been trying to do lately with writers that have songs that are A-list quality or pitchable to A-list people, and the songs have not been picked up. I've been able to switch that into distributing the records ourselves and making the opportunity ourselves.
So are the writers actually the artists, or are you getting artists to record
Both.
those records?
Yeah, I'm doing both. Whether I have an artist in house, or the artist or the songwriter is a writer or artist themselves. So it is a double threat. But I think great songs will always be great songs, no matter who's singing them. I mean, how they performed is a different issue. But if it's sung correctly, you can still sell and sing a great opportunity.
It's also, there's so many good artists out there. I understand you want to write for Beyonce, you want to write for J Balvin, you want to write, but there's so many good artists out there. And as Al says, a good song, it's a good song. And sometimes you could be the artist who like you could be the writer who jumped that artist because you wrote the song for that artist, for the new artist. So it's if you know who you are as an artist or as a producer, and definitely you want to write for the top ones, but if you know who you are as a writer and producer, you start working with also new artists that are coming up, and you could be the producer and the writer who wrote the special song for that artist. So that's what I always tell my writers,
With many of our writers, we sit every 3 or 4 months and we go through a list, their wish list, and we see what they've accomplished that we were shooting for last time we got together, and we put together a list of something we're going for that they want to get involved with. And usually we can find a way to network our way into that room. Somebody has a connection with somebody that has a connection with somebody. And if you can't get in the room with the artist or the producer, it's really hard to get songs recorded anymore. And so that's what we spend a lot of time working on, things that are realistic goals. Well, a new writer's not going to get with Beyonce, but we can get the new writer with somebody better than him or her, and they can pull them into something else that's better than where they can get to. So we spend a lot of time doing that. And we reevaluate that routinely and very often. And also, I'm about to sign a deal with Steve Earle, who I've worked with for most of my career. And at this age at this stage of his career, he's anxious to write with some younger people in Nashville because he can't make a song sound current. He's good with the lyric. He knows how to do what he does, but he can't make it sound like current country music. And he wants to get in the room with some younger people to learn from them how to do that. And so he's never been eager to co-write with people like he is right now. So sometimes a guy changes his mind and says, set me up on any co-write with any artist that's got a record deal and I'll do it. It's like, okay, let's try that for a while. That's a departure from how he's always been.
Got it. It's great. It's great advice. I also want to talk about when a writer signs in your rosters, right? You hear the horror stories about, a writer signed this great pub deal, and after they signed, they never heard from their publisher. They kind of got put on the shelf, so to speak, right? So what's your advice for a writer to kind of stay relevant or be a priority to you all once they have signed that deal and they're not forgotten about, so to speak? Not saying you all forget about your writers, but you hear those horror stories about them kind of not hearing from their publisher after they sign the deal. So how can their writers be a priority and stay at the forefront of you all's minds after signing?
I would start out by saying it's a two-way street, and that they can reach out as well. Maybe we could set up a scheduled call, whether it's every other week, and stick to that call, or monthly. Always deliver, whether it's songs and or beats or tracks. And whenever we do set you up with sessions, make them and do very well at them. So when there is time when we need something, we know you're the go-to person and you're reliable. That's what I would say to songwriters, so they don't fall off the cliff, and let us know your intentions. Hey, don't bother me. I'm working on this, or I'm too busy, or I'm too big, or hey, I really need your help. My manager and I, or just I, would like you, to get me in with certain people. So it's a definite plan, and I think that would help a lot, or what writers should do.
I mean, Al's right. I mean, communication is the key. Early on during the pandemic, I started having a Zoom call with my writers every 3 or 4 weeks. Well, things get busy, and sometimes that's longer than 3 or 4 weeks, but certainly once a month is not too often to take 30 minutes and visit with your writer. And those Zoom calls have become very, very important in staying in touch. Just staying in touch has been the biggest challenge because I don't see them all the time. I don't walk into their writing room or into their office and hear what they're working on. I don't go to the studio and visit with them when they're doing a project. That's all changed. And so making a schedule to stay in touch with those guys is vitally important, but it's also important. The phone does go both ways. They can call me too and ask me a favor or ask me what I'm doing for them. And we just all have to stay in touch. We have to. I've heard those stories. I don't think that happens with us. I mean, some of these guys get a big check, and I've had very few, almost zero, who disappeared. They all went right back to work, and they want to win and they want to be the best.
Yeah, I think too, it's like, like Mark said, in today's like climate, with the kind of like where we're at, in the landscape of working through COVID, and this pandemic is not going away, and we've all had to adapt. Our writers have had to adapt, and we've had to adapt as that creative, execs. So like for me, it's accessibility. So I've made myself probably too accessible to all my writers. Text me songs, email me links. Like, you can always find me, like call me, I will call you back. It's really like, because when you do a deal, you do a deal for lots of different reasons, but like if the primary motivator is money, like, and I know that from the onset, cool. Like, here's your money, call me if you need anything, you know where to find me. But if it's creative, like, don't get mad at me if I'm not pitching your records when you haven't sent me anything in 6 months. Like, I need to hear from you. I want to hear what you're doing. Like, I want to hear your songs. If you have a great song, get me on the phone. Like, make sure I've heard it. Like, let's talk about ideas together, because when people disappear, I forget about you. Like, and the people that are in my face, the people that are wanting my help, like, they're the ones that are getting it. So that's, an attention grab goes a long way with me.
Totally agree with Jamie. It's both ways. It's something that you sign your deal. Okay, you sign because you need the money, blah blah. But that's not. You can't just sign and disappear. I mean, unless you're working on your side, right? And we will collect that and pay you. But it's not. If you need something creatively, you have to be in touch. You have to be. You need to send songs. You need, as I said before, you need your publishing be part of your team. And if you don't connect, I mean, it's not that easy for us either to stay behind if you don't send anything.
Yeah, and I also think meeting as many people within the company before you do a deal is key. It's vital. I think if sync is important to you, you need to ask so many people from the film and TV team. Like, because for me, like, I'm a creative person. I think I know what works for sync, but I don't actually know because I'm not a sync person. I'm not pitching to like film and TV all day long. My colleagues, Kat, Chris, I pull them in on deals before I do them to make sure that we're all aligned, again, with expectations, to make sure, yeah, we can actually help this writer. We can actually take these songs. This song would work for this film. This would be perfect for this project I know is in development, And then, like, on the A&R front too, it's like, I've had 2 babies in 7 years. So I've taken 2 maternity leaves, and people that I've signed, they knew everybody else on our team, because that's the ethos of how we work as a team. But like, I don't do deals in a vacuum. It's not just me. You're not just signing to Jamie, you're signing to Kobalt. So you know people. So like, if I were to leave, and that happens at publishers all the time, people take other jobs, people come and go, and our writers are contractually obligated to fulfill whatever their term is on their deal. So like, there's no worse feeling than that. I think like these writers that have signed deals that have gotten lost in the sauce of bigger companies, that were the A&R that signed them has left, that stinks. And I think like we can all like attest to that. Like, as creative people, there's like nothing worse than coming across people that are in deals like that. But I think, again, like for creators to be as proactive as possible, trying to meet as many people as possible on kind of whatever company they're kind of going into with whatever deal they want to sign, kind of going into it with eyes open, because that's really important.
I also want to touch on something Mark brought up and Jamie as well about the pandemic we're in and how things have kind of changed just with the landscape in general. How have you been working with your writers, or how have you, keeping your writers motivated during this pandemic to be productive? Because it's different. We're in a different world, and like Jamie mentioned, it's probably not going anywhere anytime soon. It's here to stay for a while, unfortunately. So how are you keeping them motivated during this time to stay productive?
Depends on the writer. I think for the first 6 months of 2020, when we were working from home, all of the producers that I work with were like, I'm good. I have backlogs of work I can finish. There a lot of producers are very self-contained anyway. So, but the writers, they were just, a lot of them, top line writers, they were just felt like they were kind of free falling a little bit. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them, because less self-reliant, dependent on producers to finish work. And it's forced a lot of them to adapt and to be able to cut their own vocals, which has been great. That's been something that I think out of the last year and a half, we're seeing a lot more top liners really kind of want to produce themselves, want to cut their own vocals, starting making their own tracks. That's been amazing, and I love that, forcing people to really kind of become a lot more self-sufficient, but also listening. I think a lot more people are actually listening to songs and listening to music now. Pitches for us, and I know it, on our team, have gone a lot further than they were pre-pandemic, because we're all siloed a little bit more, and A&Rs and labels are too. So it's been two things from my end.
Yeah, for us, we took a little advantage on the Zoom thing, because these writers probably wouldn't met each other if they don't have the Zoom. So what we do, we were trying to connect writers from other countries. So we put them together and in song camps, virtual song camps, right? We also did camps for sync, also virtual. Now they're becoming a little bit more hybrid, because there are some that are in studios and others through Zoom, but they were working. They at least the majority of my writers were working and they adapt through Zooms because they need to work, right? So we create those spaces via Zoom to make them together, and we create actually a camp with Italy, Spain, France, Latam. So these writers and producer probably could have met before. It wasn't through this Zoom, so we make that happen.
For us, I found that a lot of tracks or packs were sent to songwriters or rappers, and they would, A/B a session, and if it was accepted, they would put the record out. Or a lot of writers that live close to each other, they would camp together and they would create records. And some of my writers were just renegades, and they were flying to Miami and LA and just crashing sessions. So it was a variety of writing sessions during the pandemic. But to agree with all of you of the panelists, it was a great time to listen to music, and a lot of time to evaluate and plan during that time off. So I think that will continue.
I think initially there was a lot of resistance to the Zoom right. And then I think pretty quickly people got used to it. And early on, I called one of my writers, I said, this is working really well. it's actually, these songs are better than they were before. He said, that's because we don't have a track to hide behind or a loop or a sound. We've got a guitar and a vocal. And when we get to that tricky part of the lyric, we have to look at each other and say, that's not good enough, is it? It's like, nope, that's not good enough. We have to work on it a little more. And then we build the track around it after we've written the song. So in some cases, it kind of improved it. And I also think it's opened our eyes to the fact that we don't have to fly to Spain or to Los Angeles or to New York or to Miami to get with a guy, especially if you've written with him before. You can do it. You can do it over Zoom, and it opens up that opportunity to call somebody and say, I'm stuck on this bridge. Do you have 1 hour tomorrow morning to help me with this before you go to your session? And they'll jump on there for an hour and knock it out and get the song wrapped up and then move on to the next thing. So I think the Zoom write will be here as part of our toolkit from here on. I hope so. I think it makes a lot of sense in a lot of circumstances. It's not the same as being in the room together, bashing it out. That's what our guys do all the time. 3 people in a room and creating. And it's not as good as that, but it works really effectively. It's been a real great
It's also
tool.
saving everybody a ton of money, like saving the writers a ton of money, saving the
That's right.
publishers a ton of money. You know, it's like, but yeah, agreed. Nothing beats that in-person connection, but like there are no borders anymore because of this. And we definitely learned that all through COVID. So it's been great.
I think we have about 5 more minutes to wrap it up. But before we do, I want to just ask one more question. This is for the entire panel. What's the one piece of advice you all would give a writer right after they sign a deal with you all?
Be there, be connected with your publisher, with your creative. No ideas are bad, you know, so exchange ideas with your creative, you know, try to explain to your A&R, like what's the next thing you want to do. So for us, we can help to go there, but you need to be connected with your publisher.
I would say manage and budget out your money so that you can live and perform and travel for the duration of your deal. So if you have to pay your rent for a year, 2 years, do it. If you have to pay your mortgage, if you have to put some money aside for food and travel so you can enhance your career or get updated equipment or the latest equipment or a studio room, do it ahead of time, knock it out so you can have a free mind to create and to do what your job is now as a published writer. Create music and be free of mind and of ease. I would say that.
That's good advice. And that's very good advice. And it's kind of like when a writer has his first hit, I advise them to get with a financial consultant. And before you get that check from ASCAP, get with somebody that's going to help you pay your taxes on the money and maybe put some of it away before you go buy the Harley or the boat. Maybe that can be your second hit. But I think if it was a young writer, I would tell them to try to be open-minded and focus on learning something new every day. Try to consistently write up and get with a better writer, a more experienced writer, and learn something every single day. And work hard every day. That's very important. Stay focused and work hard.
Yeah, and for me, it's really like, I would say, you know, you're going to get back what you put in. So like, if you put in nothing, you're going to get nothing from me, you know, like, but if you're talking to me, if you're sending me songs, if you're willing to listen to my ideas and work with me, work with our team, you know, like the results will come. They might not come tomorrow, but they will come, you know, and they might come in different ways than you thought they would, you know, like, but God willing, like life is long for all of us, right? And like, we all choose to be on this path. It's not quantifiable. Like songwriting is so, and we've all been parts of different songs that have happened in different ways, but it really is like, you never know where it's going to come from. So just like be patient with yourself, which is so hard, you know, for us all to do. And it's so hard for writers, you know. But yeah, don't give up. I like what Mark said too. And Al and Nana Rosa. I think everybody kind of made valid points there, but definitely save your money.
It's all great advice, all great advice. Well, that concludes our panel for today. Again, thank you all for taking the time out to talk with us, and thank everybody for tuning in. Hopefully you learned a lot. We had a lot of great information that was dropped today. So thank you all, everybody. And yeah, everybody have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.